Hey everybody, Mr. The Fanboy here. This is a video I've been trying to do for weeks now, but I've just been tired and lazy. But in honor of the upcoming WrestleMania 33, this is my short WrestleMania review series. I'm gonna go through every WrestleMania from WrestleMania 1 all the way up until WrestleMania 32. WrestleMania 32 in honor of WrestleMania 33. I'm also gonna do, because it's much better, I'm also gonna do a WCW Starrcade series, which was their WrestleMania from Starrcade 1 all the way up till Starrcade 2000, which unfortunately was the last Starrcade event produced by WCW, and of course the TNA's Bound Bound for Glory series, and in Bound for Glory series from Bound for Glory 2005 all the way up until Bound for Glory 2016. I'm also gonna in the upcoming weeks do the Slammiversary series, because I think these are much better. I would also do the Wrestle Kingdom and the Triple Mania shows, but I haven't seen every show from them. So when Triple Mania, that's the AAA promotion, when their big show comes around, I'll review the ones. I'll do a video talking about the ones I've seen. And Wrestle Kingdom, I guess I'll do the Wrestle Kingdom shows of the ones I've seen. I haven't seen all the shows, so I can't do a short review series. This is also a lead into a much longer review series of each of these pay-per-views. But this is a short review WrestleMania series, short review series, giving my opinion on each, giving my thoughts and opinion on each WrestleMania. And with that being said, as you can see by the poster here, the very first WrestleMania was WrestleMania 1, which was, I'm on Wikipedia right now. This was March 31st, 1985. Venue Madison Square Garden, New York, New York City, New York, and the attendance was 19,000, well, 121, 121, and I didn't even know this had a theme song. But the theme song was "Easy Lover" by Philip Bailey, and Phil Collins. Of course, there were a lot of matches, but the main event, as you can see by the poster here, was Hulk Hogan and Mr. T taking on Roddy Piper and um, Paul Orndorff. I actually thought, while not being that good, while it hasn't held up the best, I thought this. I still think this was a pretty good. This was a pretty awesome WrestleMania. The only thing I didn't like about this WrestleMania was the production values. The production values were off. This WrestleMania looked no different than a normal WWE television taping of that time. And while there were several good matches on this card, the only real match, the only two that really stuck out in my mind were the two big matches were the Dave, David San Martino, the son of Bruno San Martino, versus my boy Brutus the Barber Beefcake with Johnny Valiant, who of course they wrestled to a double disqualification, and Hulk Hogan and Mr. T versus Piper and Orndorff There was also a body slam challenge with Andre the Giant and Big Ron Studd, but everything else on this card could have been on television. Could have been on television. This is a problem I have. This is a problem I have when I go back and watch these old WrestleMania events. They're not as good as they were when I was a kid. Of course, it's not going to be as good as it was when I was a kid, because while when I was a kid, you thought wrestling was real. I thought wrestling was still somewhat real, so it'll never be as good as it was as a kid. But still, but one thing I love about WrestleMania in the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, that was the last time WrestleMania was ever good. WrestleMania in the 2010s, which is the PG era, is absolutely terrible. Even when you get a good WrestleMania, you won't remember it because there will be no buzz about it. People will talk about it for a couple of days, then it'll just completely go away. Unlike other stuff like the Super Bowl, which people talk about forever. This year's Super Bowl 51, people will be talking about that awesome Super Bowl forever, man. Nobody will care about any of these WrestleManias years from now, especially the ones in the PG era, which is the worst era of WrestleMania, in my opinion. In my opinion, but like I said, this is back when the business. This was the '80s when the business wasn't exposed. When the business wasn't exposed, when everyone believed this was real, when the business wasn't exposed, and when WrestleMania was the big thing. I didn't even live in the '80s, but I can see how big all this stuff was. The big buzz, and everything around wrestling, and you won't see anything like that today. Today, this was a pretty good WrestleMania. Tito Santana defeated the Executioner in a solid opener. Worst match was King Kong Bundy defeating Special Delivery Jones, a jobber, in a squash match, 24 seconds. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat defeated Matt Bourne, who would later become Doink the Clown, in a phenomenal, in another solid match. My favorite match of the night was David Sammartino beating Brutus the Barber Beefcake. I mean, fighting him to a double disqualification. I loved David Sammartino. I thought he was underrated. I thought he was underrated. Everyone, he was always in the shadow of his father, Bruno Sammartino, and of course, yeah, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, who was awesome in this match, and he was great healing it up. For as long as I've seen him, he's been a well, actually, no, he's been a heel in WCW too. He was the disciple, but he's been a babyface. It was cool as the Brutus the Barber Beefcake character, seeing him as a heel here, even though he has been a heel in WCW. Yeah, love Brutus the Barber Beefcake. I also thought he was underrated. A great gimmick, great wrestler, and yeah, yeah. Junkyard. He's hated by a lot of people. He's hated. I think I even heard he got knocked out by the late ravishing Rick Rude in real life backstage. Junkyard Dog defeated Greg the Hammer Valentine in another solid match that could have been on television. Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik defeated the U.S. Express of Mike Rotundo and Barry Windham with Lou Albano this for the tag team championships. This also could have been on television. Andre the Giant defeated Big Ron Studd in an okay match for the Body Slam Challenge, and Wendy Ricker defeated Lania Kai in a wasn't that good of a match, in a okay match. Really wasn't that good for the women's championships. In the main event, Hulk Hogan and Mr. T defeated Piper and Orloff in a phenomenal tag team tag team tag team match. This match was awesome, and Mr. T looked good for a guy who Mr. T was double tough, but he wasn't a pro wrestler. Piper and Orloff made him look strong, and I usually hate celebrity involvement, but this was pretty good. This was pretty good. I also love involvement. Muhammad Ali's involvement in the match. Snuka also got involved in the match, headbutting um um Bob Orton, Randy Orton's father. And I hear Pat Patterson was the referee. So yeah, this was all in all a good WrestleMania. The only thing I didn't like was was the production values were off. The production values were terrible. This looked no different than an episode of Main Event or a normal WWE TV taping at that time. Yeah, sorry about that. Kind of sick. The next WrestleMania was WrestleMania 2. Now, this has a mixed reception amongst people. A lot of people consider this to be one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. One of the worst WrestleManias of all time. But this is one of my all-time favorite WrestleManias. But I can see why some people would hate it. You had a bunch of what I like to call jobber TV matches. But this show had three. First off, this show had a much better venue, and I thought the idea of taking place in three cities was awesome. The first venue was the Natsu Veterans Memorial Coliseum in the Los Angeles Sports Arena. Then of course I remember them going to Chicago and New York and California. So them taking place in three settings was cool. Then I love the then there were three awesome matches. First, the Andre the Giant the Invitational the Invitational Battle Royal, which was the WWF versus NFL Battle Royal, where they had NFL people competing like Ray Perry, Ray Perry, I think that's his name. The refrigerator, the William Perry, the refrigerator William Perry. And I thought the battle royal and that has returned to WrestleManias recently. That's one of the reasons I'm even tuning in to WrestleMania. I'm even watching WrestleMania this year. Then of course you got um then of course, oh yeah, Mr. T and Roddy Piper, the boxing match where the referee went down and Piper body slammed Mr. T and turned it into a real fight. Um 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 and of course the main event of the night, the main event of the night, Hulk Hogan, Hulk Hogan taking on King Kong Bundy in a steel cage match for the WWF um, championship. This match screams WrestleMania, the epicness of WrestleMania. These two larger than life wrestlers battling it out in an awesome steel cage. When you think wrestling, this match right here is what you think of. Like I said, so I thought this was much better. I thought this was much better in WrestleMania 2 than WrestleMania 1. Better production values, a much better card, even though a lot of these matches could have been left off the card. Could have been left off the card and could have been left off the card or could have gotten more build up or something like that to make them feel more special. And then taking place from three arenas: the Natsu Coliseum, the Rosemont Horizon for the second part of the show, and the Los Angeles Memorial Sports Arena for the third part of the show. Um, yeah. The next is WrestleMania 3, which I thought was an awesome WrestleMania, but this WrestleMania is really overrated in my opinion. It's not the best WrestleMania of all time, but WrestleMania 3 I thought was an awesome WrestleMania. There were a lot of good matches on this show, but apart from Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Macho Man, which I used to love that match as a child, as an adult I can't stand that match. It's too choreographed. It's too choreographed. Too choreographed. That's one thing I don't like about a lot of Macho Man matches, especially in the 80s and 90s. I love Macho Man better in WCW. Um, but apart from that match and the main event, Hulk Hogan and Andre, was which was as a kid I was a huge fan of this match. As an adult, it's okay. Andre the Giant wasn't in the best of moods, and I've seen better matches between him and Hogan. I've seen better matches between him and Hogan on on um on on other WWF tapings from the 80s. They had a better match. The rematch on main event between these two, and they had a early tournament match at WrestleMania 4. I thought were better, much better than this match right here. But this right here was a phenomenal match. The build up, this right here was a phenomenal feud. The build up and everything. Like I said, it was an okay match. Andre the Giant, which is one of the reasons he passed the torch over to Hogan, was because he wasn't in the best of health, and that kind of ruined the match. You had a solid card. You had a solid card. You had the Can Am connection, Rick Martel and Tom Zink defeating Bob Orton and Magnificent Morocco. Never knew Tom Zink wrestled in WWE. Billy Jack Haynes versus Hercules Hernandez ended in a double countout. Uh, I didn't even want to. I never even watched this crap. Hillbilly Jim, Heidi Kid, and Little Beaver taking on King Kong Bunny, Little Tokyo, and Little Rock. Harley Race defeating the Junkyard Dog. I remember this match. Loser must bow match. This was an okay match. I've seen way better matches from Harley Race. The Dream Team, Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus the Barber of Beefcake with Johnny Valiant and Dino Rebel defeated the Rock Brothers in a solid tag team match. Piper defeated Adrian Adonis in a hair versus hair match. The memorable part came at the end with Brutus Barber Beefcake shaving Adrian Adonis's head. The Hart Foundation, Bret Hart and Neidhart and Dangerous Danny Davis defeated the British Bulldogs, Davey Samart, Davey Boy Smith, and Dynamite Kid and Tito Santana. Butch Reed, Butch Reed, and that was also one. That was actually the best match of the night, but it's just overshadowed by the other two by the Steamboat Savage and Hogan and Andre match. Butch Reed defeated Coco Beware in a solid match. I always skip that. Honky Tonk Man defeated Jake the Snake Roberts. I always skip this. The Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov defeated the Killer Bees. I always skip this. And Hulk Hogan defeated Andre the Giant in an OK match. I was a huge fan of this match as a child. One of my favorite moments in the match, which was hilarious, was the first off was the beginning where Andre the Giant, where I love when they're in each other's faces. The epic stare down. Hogan rips off his shirt. Hogan rips off his shirt, and Andre the Giant shoves him. Then tries to shoves Hogan. Hogan shoves back. Andre the Giant tries to hit. Hogan blocks and does his signature punches. Then already tries to lift him up, and Andre falls on Hogan, and it's almost over right there. It would have been hilarious if he didn't end it right there. It would have been hilarious and embarrassing for Hogan if it had ended right there. Then it continues outside the ring. In a one funny spot, Hogan tried to expose the mats and power drive Andre the Giant onto the what's his name, but he couldn't do it. And Andre the Giant just easily lifted him up, reversed it by lifting him up and dropping him. Then of course the epic ending where Hogan, in an awesome feat of strength, body slammed Andre the Giant. Did hit the leg drop for the 1, 2, 3, and then while you were happy Hogan won, you actually had to feel sorry for Andre for losing, and Bobby the Brain Heenan was irate after the match. Like I said, not by today's standards, not the greatest match ever, but still it served its purpose, and everyone tuned in to see this match. This is what everyone remembers. A lot of the undercard matches were better than this, but it was what's his name. I also mentioned the Savage and Steamboat match, which I was a huge fan of this match as a child, but as an adult, it does not hold up. It's too choreographed, and considering the two wrestlers you have in the ring, I consider that match to be a waste of both of their talents. Considering the two wrestlers you have in that ring, the theme song I didn't know this had a theme song was "Who's Zooming Who" by Aretha Franklin. Uh, WrestleMania 4, one of my all-time favorite WrestleManias and one of the best WrestleManias of all time. I thought the idea of a tournament and a battle royal on the same show was awesome, and I love the face turn of Bret Hart. You had Bad News Brown and Bret Hart teaming up um in the battle royal, consisting of Sam Houston, Sika, Jim Neidhart, Brian Blair, Raymond Ragu, Jim Brazil, George the Animal Steel, Ron Bass, Hillbilly Jim, Danny Davis, Jim Powers, Nikolai Volkov, Ken Patera, Boris Zukov, Jack Rogue, Harley Race, Paul Roma, Junkyard Dog, Bret Hart, and Bad News Brown. You had Bret Hart and Bad News Brown forming an alliance and teaming up on everyone. Then when it got to the end, Bad News Brown turned on Bret Hart by drop kicking him. They were going to share the trophy, but then Bad News Brown drop kicked him, and I think he threw him out. And Bret Hart came in, drop kicked him in an awesome, one of my favorite WrestleMania moments. Bret Hart grabbed the trophy and smashed the trophy and smash the trophy, man. Smash the trophy. So yeah, like I said, but I love the concept of this. This had a battle royal and a tournament to crown a vacant WWF champion. One of the more memorable parts was Hogan and Andre, the rematch from WrestleMania, ending in a double disqualification, and Andre was paid by Ted DiBiase to keep Hogan out of the match. Then of course you had Then of course you had Demolition, Axe and Smash. Then of course you had several good matches. You had Ted DiBiase defeating Jim Duggan in a solid first round match. Don Morocco defeating Dino Bravo in a solid match. Greg the Valentine defeated Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in a pretty good match. One Man Gang defeating Bam and Bigelow in a pretty good big man match. Randy Savage defeating Butch Reed in a pretty awesome match. Rick Rude and Jake the Snake Roberts wrestling to a time limit draw. Ultimate Warrior and defeated Hercules in a solid singles match. Hulk Hogan, I mentioned disqualification. Ted DiBiase, he defeated Don Morocco in another solid match. Randy Savage defeated Greg Nerva Valentine in a solid match. There was also an Intercontinental title match with Brutus the Barber Beefcake defeated Honky Tonk Man, and the Islanders Haku and Tama defeated the British Bulldogs and Coco Beware, and Randy Savage defeated One Man Gang. Demolition, Axe and Smash defeated Strike Force, and Randy Savage defeated Ted DiBiase to win the vacant WWE Championship after interference from Hulk Hogan, who hit Ted DiBiase with a chair. I remember that as a kid watching that. That was a really attitude era like moment. Hogan, a good guy. This was before the NWO doing something like that, and I remember I'm like, whoa. So like I said, WrestleMania 4 is one of the best of all time. I'm gonna like I said, this short review series is an introduction to long reviews. I'm gonna find a way to rewatch this WrestleMania and review over from beginning to end. Next is WrestleMania 5. WrestleMania 5, in my opinion, sucked, and much to my surprise, I'm not the only one who thought it sucked. Because if you check the reception page on Wikipedia, Wrestling Observer Newsletter declared this to be the worst show of 1989. Of 1989. Apart from the main event, apart from the main event and the Intercontinental title match between Rude and Warrior, and a tag team match involving oh yeah, Akeem and Bossman versus the Rockers. This show this show felt like a normal WWF television tape. It didn't feel like WrestleMania, with the exception of the main event, which was Hogan and Macho, which was pretty good. I love the Hogan and Macho Man feud, especially later when Hogan incorporated his best friend Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and Macho Man got Zeus, Sonny Liston, Debo from Friday, and the main antagonist of the No Holds Barred pro wrestling movie starring Hulk Hogan. Uh, WrestleMania 6. WrestleMania 6. Love WrestleMania 6. However, as an adult, this is not that good of a WrestleMania. This is not that good of a WrestleMania. But the main event alone, these, once again, just like WrestleMania 2, these two larger than life wrestlers, Hogan and Warrior, going at it. Warrior was terrible, but he was an awesome personality, man. He was an awesome personality. And Hogan carried him to a phenomenal match. And seeing Hogan as a kid, watching this on tape, seeing Hogan job to Warrior was powerful, man. Was powerful. While you were happy for Warrior, I could see the disappointment on Hogan's face. Surprised to see Hogan lose. You're used to the routine Hogan winning, but Hogan, he missed the last leg drop, and Warrior with a desperation splash pinned him for the 1, 2, 3. Um, um, and I'm not the only one who doesn't think this was good. This received mixed to positive reviews. Everyone praises the main event, but and that's the thing. If you take this match out, everything else is something you would see on Raw, or should I say Wrestle Challenge, which they were doing at this time. Something you would see on TV. Something you would see on TV. Next is, oh yes, WrestleMania 7, another favorite WrestleMania of mine. Only thing I hate about this show is awesome from beginning to end. The only thing I hate about this match was Hogan and Slaughter, the main event. While the feud between these two were great, the match between the two wasn't as good. And considering the two wrestlers you had in the ring, I expected a much better match between these two, between Hogan and Slaughter. This wasn't the best. This wasn't the best match I've seen from any of them. And considering you have a dream match, you have pretty much the the All American Hero face of the AWA versus the All American Hero face of the WWE, with Slaughter of course being the turncoat. But this was an awesome show. You had the Rockers starting it off. You had the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Jannetty defeating the Barbarian with Bobby the Brain Heenan. You had the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich defeating Dino Bravo in a pretty good squash match. British the Bulldog defeated Warlord in another awesome match. The Nasty Boys defeated the Hart Foundation. In a phenomenal tag team match. Jake Roberts defeated Rick Martel in an awesome blindfold match. The psychology and art scene in this match was awesome. The Undertaker defeated Jimmy Snuka, and I think this will be the first match of his streak. This was a solid squash match. Snuka made Taker look strong. Ultimate Warrior defeated Randy Savage in an okay match. This I was a huge fan of this match as a child, but doesn't hold up. From a match quality standpoint, it doesn't hold up. From a story standpoint, it's still pretty awesome. Just like the WrestleMania 2 match between WrestleMania 3 match between Andre and Hogan. Junichiro Tenryu and Koji Kaito defeated Demolition in a pretty good tag team match. Big Boss Man defeated Mr. Perfect in a pretty good match. Earthquake defeated Greg Never Valentine in an okay match. The Legion of Doom defeated the Powers of Glory in a okay squash, I guess. Virgil defeated the Power and Glory, Hercules and Paul Roma. That's who they defeated. Virgil defeated Ted DiBiase by count out in a pretty good match. The Mountie defeated Tito Santana. I don't even remember that. Then of course Hulk Hogan versus Sergeant Slaughter, which in my opinion wasn't that good. But the story and everything else was. But the match between the two wasn't good. I think this even won worst match of the. I think this even won worst match. I think the Hogan and Slaughter match won worst worked match of the year. It wasn't that good, and considering the two awesome wrestlers you had in the ring. WrestleMania 8, baby, one of the best WrestleManias of all time, and it still holds up today for the most part, man. This was a phenomenal show, man. You started the show off with Shawn Michaels defeating Tito Santana, who was doing the awesome El Matador gimmick, which I guess that would be considered racist, but actually I love that gimmick and loved Tito Santana's costume. Undertaker defeated Jake the Snake Roberts in one of Undertaker's better matches for his overrated streak. Bret Hart defeated Roddy Piper in a phenomenal WWF Intercontinental title match. Big Boss Man, Virgil, Sergeant Slaughter, and Duggan defeated the Nasty Boys, Brian Knobbs and Jerry Sags, Repo Man in a solid 8-man tag team match. What was memorable about this was seeing Slaughter as a kid being a face again. Randy Savage defeated Ric Flair in a phenomenal match for the singles match for the WWF Championship. One of the best matches Savage has had in WWE, and a lot of his matches in WWE, in my opinion, aren't good, but this was one of the best matches he's had. Ric Flair led him to one of the best matches ever of his WWE career. Tatanka defeated Rick Martel in a pretty good match. The Natural Disasters defeated Money. I'd always skip this. Owen Hart defeated Skinner. I don't remember that match. Oh, yes. Then, main event, Hulk Hogan defeating Sid by disqualification and seeing the epic return of the Ultimate Warrior, man. WrestleMania 9. Now, this has a mixed reception amongst people. Of course, people pretty much criticize the Togas, which I thought was awesome. The Undertaker Gonzalez match and the Hulk Hogan title win. I'm going to get to all of that. But this right here is one of my all-time favorite WrestleManias. I think it's one of the best WrestleManias of all time. I love the outdoor venue. I love the outdoor venue and I love the outdoor venue. I love the togas. the Jim Ross, and I think it was Bobby Ray Heenan coming in riding a camel and struggling to fall off. Then when he fell off, he came here and JR was like, Bobby, you stink. You smell like camel. It was hilarious. I thought this was an awesome show. The venue was Caesar's Palace in Paradise, Nevada. In Paradise, Nevada with an attendance of 16,891. Like I said, a lot of people hate this WrestleMania, but I for one love this WrestleMania. I think it's one of the best of all time. Phenomenal card. You had an opener of Tatanka defeating Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental Championship. The Steiner brothers defeating the Head Shrinkers in a pretty good tag team match. Doink the Clown defeating Crush in one of Doink the Clown's better WWE matches. Razor Ramon defeating Bob Backlund in a pretty good match. Money Inc. Oh yes, Ted DiBiase and Earthshot defeating the Mega Maniacs, Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake by disqualification for the tag team titles. This is my opinion. Edge was cool, but this is the guy Hulk Hogan should have won the tag team titles with. But Hogan didn't want to work the mid card, as I'm going to get to later in this show. Lex Luger defeated the Mr. Perfect, the narcissist Lex Luger, Mr. Perfect. The narcissist Lex Luger defeated Mr. Perfect in a phenomenal match. Undertaker defeated Gonzalez in an okay match. Oh, in an okay match. It wasn't that good, but it wasn't that bad either. Yokozuna defeated Bret Hart in a phenomenal big man little man match. Bret Hart did a good job of making Yokozuna look strong, and oh, I love the as a kid watching this. This was so heroic. Yokozuna cheated by having Mr. Fuji throw powder in Bret Hart's face, and Hogan came out after the match to tend to his buddy Bret Hart, to tend to his storyline buddy Bret Hart, and Fuji got cocky and had Yokozuna. Fuji and Yokozuna got cocky and had them challenge Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan, to the roar of the crowd and to Bret Hart, who was like, "Go get it, go in there and get it." Hogan defeated Yokozuna in under a minute, 22 seconds, to win the WWF Championship. Everyone hates that now because of the politics, and I can understand why as an adult. But seeing this as a child, it was so heroic. Seeing Hulk Hogan come in that ring and win the title for the last time, and it was Yokozuna who ended Hulkamania in WWE for a while. Uh, WrestleMania 10, another favorite WrestleMania, and what is widely considered one of the best WrestleManias of all time. What is widely considered one of the best WrestleManias of all time. You had a phenomenal card. You had Owen Hart defeating Bret Hart in a solid opener. This is widely considered one of the best matches of all time. This match is pretty good, but it's not the best I've seen from either one of these wrestlers. If this would have happened anywhere else, it would have been a phenomenal match. But it was a solid opener. And the storyline of this match, which is one of my favorite feuds, the Bret Hart and Owen feud, that still holds up today. But the match does not. The match doesn't. This one doesn't. I thought he had a better match at SummerSlam later that year. Bam and Bigelow and Luda Vachon defeated Dunk and Dink the Clown in a pretty awesome mixed tag team match. This was a pretty good match considering it was a mixed tag team match involving a woman and a midget wrestler. Next was Randy Savage defeating Crush in an underrated Falls Count Anywhere match. People don't talk about this match, but this was a phenomenal hardcore like match in what is the new generation era of WWE. Alundra Blaze defeated I don't remember this, but Alundra Blaze defeated Lalonde Likai in a singles match for the women's title in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Oh yes, Men on a Mission. The late Mabel and Mo defeated with Oscar defeating the Quebecers Jacques and Pierre for the tag team championships. Awesome match. Yokozuna defeated Lex Luger by disqualification with a screw job from Mr. Perfect in a phenomenal match. Luger, I hear, was supposed to win this match, but I think he was drunk at a bar and revealed the ending, and so they changed it to Bret Hart. I also hear that they just chose Bret Hart because he was of course more over. He was of course more over. Earthquake defeated Adam Bomb. Earthquake defeated Adam Bomb in what was the worst match of the night. Worst match of the night. Adam Bomb wasn't he was an okay big. He was a pretty good big man, pretty good athletic big man. He wasn't that good in the ring, but he was a phenomenal fighter. He was a phenomenal fighter, and you could have a street fighter and brawler, and you could have had a good big man fight here, but still you had a terrible squash match. Razor Ramon defeated Shawn Michaels in what was I think was the first ladder match in that company. Even though I think Bret Hart and Shawn had one, I remember them having one earlier, but I think that was in Stampede Wrestling, if I'm not mistaken. But I think this was the first ever ladder match, first ever ladder match. But this was a phenomenal match right here, and probably the best match of the night. Probably the best match of the night. Then the main event rematch from previous WrestleMania with Bret the Hitman Hart getting his revenge on Yokozuna for screwing him the year before. Like I said, all in um, a phenomenal. All in all, people, a phenomenal. All in all, a phenomenal show. One of the best WrestleManias of all time. And while the Owen Hart and Bret Hart match doesn't hold up, the story does. The storyline does. And Bret and and this WrestleMania to this day is still one of the best of all time. And widely considered one of the best ever, man. Widely considered one of the best ever. I always loved watching this WrestleMania. I've watched it several times. I used to rent it every time on tape back in the 2000s on Blockbusters. Of course I was too young when this was around, when this was on. So I rated this and I always thought it was the coolest thing ever, and I still enjoy it to this day. And first off, I hate praising WWE. I hate putting them over, but this is one of the many times I have to clap. This is one of the best shows of all time, and it's still awesome to this day. And this was the 10th anniversary of WrestleMania, and I love the intro of them showing highlights from previous WrestleManias, then showing now Lex Luger, Yokozuna, Bret, and them. One of the best WrestleManias of all time. Next is WrestleMania 11, another favorite WrestleMania of mine. This has a mixed reception. A lot of people consider this to be the worst WrestleMania because of the overabundance of celebrities, and the main event consisting of Taylor and Bigelow. However, a lot of people praise this event, saying Lawrence Taylor looked good for a football player, and and um, and the event that saved WWE. I'm one of the people who loved this event, and this event did save WWE. Yeah, everyone hates the fact they had a celeb this that they had Bama Bigelow and Taylor in the main event. They should have been in the main. They should have been in the main event. Mike Diesel was the worst champion ever and had no business in the main and had no business in the main event. They actually expected Shawn and Diesel to actually draw people to this. No, you needed all the celebrity stuff you could have, all the celebrity involvement you could have, and Lawrence Taylor wrestling Bam Bam Bigelow. And Lawrence Taylor, he actually performed well. I'm mixed about having him beat Bam Bam Bigelow. To this day, I'm still mixed about the booking decision of having him beat Bam Bam Bigelow. But everything else about this was awesome. You had Salt and Pepper. This actually introduced me to the Salt and Pepper singing group, which was hilarious. They had them singing, and then the late Bam Bam Bigelow comes out and scares each of them. Like I said, and just a pretty good card. You had the Allied Powers, Luger and Bulldog defeating the Blue Brothers in a solid opener. Razor Ramon in what was match of the night. Razor Ramon defeating Jeff Jarrett for the Intercontinental Championship. Undertaker defeating King Kong Bundy in an okay match. Owen Hart and Yokozuna defeating the Smoking Guns for the WWF Tag Team Championship, which was, even though Owen Hart and Yokozuna were the heels, this was a phenomenal match. The crowd was into it, as were the Razor and Jeff Jarrett match. And Owen Hart and Yokozuna, even though they were the heels, even as a child, them beating the Smoking Guns for the tag team titles was a phenomenal moment. Even though they were the bad guys, in this match, Bret Hart defeated Bob Backlund in an okay match. They had an okay I Quit match. They had a much better match at Survivor Series the year before, and at Survivor Series the year before that, several months before this. Diesel defeated Shawn Michaels in one of Diesel's best matches when he was WWF champions. This and his Bret Hart match later that year were the best matches he's ever had. Had. Diesel was one of the worst WWF champions of all time. Hold on, I gotta spit. All right, I'm done now. Yeah, yeah. Then of course you had the main event: Lawrence Taylor with Ken Norton Jr., Chris Spellman, Carl Banks, Ricky Jackson, the late Reggie White, Steve McMichael, who would later appear in WCW, versus versus Bam and Bigelow with Tatanka, King Kong Bundy, Ted DiBiase, Erwin R. Shyster, Nikolai Volkov, and Kama in a phenomenal singles match. In a phenomenal singles match. This was an awesome match. Lawrence Taylor performed well. And Lawrence Taylor, I usually hate celebrity involvement. In, I usually hate celebrity involvement in wrestling, especially when they're wrestling matches. But Lawrence Taylor actually went in there, took bumps, hit some awesome moves, and actually performed well. I'm mixed about having him defeat Bam Bigelow because, like I said, that does make wrestling look bad. And to this day, all the reputation and credibility of wrestling is forever destroyed because of stuff like this, man. But this right here was an awesome WrestleMania. It was big, it was epic, it was everything WrestleMania should be. Everyone talks about the celebrity involvement. I usually hate that too, but this is one of the many times you need it. If it wasn't for this, WWE would probably be out of business right about now. Uh, WrestleMania 12, another favorite WrestleMania of mine. And I own this. I own this one on VHS to this day, and just recently watched it. Finished watching it for the second time, and I'm gonna rewatch it again later to review it. WrestleMania 12, one of my favorite and one of the best WrestleManias of all time. You had a pretty good card, and you had the epic main event, the feud between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. I'm gonna talk about their feud for a moment. These two right here made me believe pro wrestling was real because these two didn't like each other in real life, man. I believed every bit of this. And this was different from WWE, a 60-minute pure Iron Man wrestling match. Tell you the truth, it hasn't held up the best. There's too much. There's some awesome wrestling and some awesome moves, but there's too much fakery. There's too much fake punches and stuff. Too much fake punches and stuff. But this right here at the time was one of the best matches of all time, and it's still pretty good today, even though it hasn't held up to best. But to have something like this, Bret Hart and Shawn, a pure wrestling match as the main event for WrestleMania, for WrestleMania. This is the one time Vince did something right. One of the many times Vince did something right by having the top stars, the two main eventers, headline your show. And boy, what an awesome WrestleMania this was. You had an awesome opener, underrated, between Vader, Owen Hart, the British Bulldogs, the British Bulldog versus Ahmed Johnson, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Yokozuna in a phenomenal six-man tag team match. If Yokozuna's team had won, I think he would get 5 minutes with Jim Cornette. He would get 5 minutes with Jim Cornette. Then you got Roddy Piper defeating Goldust in a Hollywood Backlight Brawl. Pretty much a hardcore match in the New Generation era. Which this match, first off, it started off in the parking lot. Then they both got into their cars. And chased each other around town. Then came back with Piper disrobing Goldust, with Goldust dominating Piper, and then Piper getting that second win and disrobing Goldust and winning the backyard brawl. This moment was heroic. This moment was awesome and exciting and heroic as a child, man. Piper, I'm not a fan. I'm a fan of him as a personality, but I'm not a fan of Piper today. He's a phenomenal wrestler, but his boxing skills, which he boasted he had, were terrible, man. Were terrible. But this right here was a pretty awesome match, man. And this was one of the favorite parts of Piper's careers, man. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeating Savio Vega in a phenomenal match. Another awesome match they don't talk about. The Ultimate Warrior squashing Triple H in a pretty good match, man. Yeah, Triple H deserved this. Triple H deserves this. I can't stand Triple H. So seeing this right here, I hate Warrior, but I hate Triple H more. So seeing Warrior squash him, and as a child, it was heroic and awesome, man. Um, Undertaker defeated Diesel in a. This wasn't that good, man. This was okay, but like I said, a lot of terrible Taker matches between this period. Undertaker always sucked, and so did Diesel. If these two aren't in the ring with the right opponent, their matches are going to be terrible, man. Just two lame big men who can barely wrestle and only good because of their characters and how big they were. And Diesel, his whole career, just like Triple H, was backstage politics. Anything Kevin Nash did from '96 to 2001 was awesome, but right here, oh my God, just terrible, man. Just terrible. Shawn Michaels defeated Bret Hart in a phenomenal Iron Man match. So much awesome technical wrestling, so much awesome high impact moves. Like I said, the brawling and fighting in this match could have been better. Too much fakery when I watch it now. Too much fakery that I couldn't tell when I was a kid. Shawn Michaels' epic entrance. Bret Hart had a pretty awesome entrance too. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, this was the WWF. This was the famed WWF New Generation era. And after this, Bret Hart would take some time off, and he would return at Survivor Series later that year to wrestle Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is where he would slowly tease the heel turn, and this is where the rivalry would become more personal. However, it was always personal between these two when they finally called a truce in 2010 when Bret Hart returned to WWE. Um, so like I said, awesome WrestleMania match. Next is and to this day, still one of the best WrestleManias ever. WrestleMania 13. WrestleMania 13 is one of the weaker WrestleManias in my opinion. Even as a child, I thought this was weak. My favorites were pretty much the Austin and Bret Hart match. Or should I say Rocky Maivia match with Rikishi, who was wrestling as the Sultan at this his Intercontinental title match, and of course the main event. Every match was good except for Triple H's match with Goldust. But yeah, this WrestleMania wasn't that good. Even as a kid, I didn't think this was all that good. The shows leading up to this, the Royal Rumble, the In Your House Final Four, were much better than this, and a lot of the pay-per-views after this, like King of the Ring, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series of that year, were way better than this show right here. This show really wasn't that good in my opinion, apart from the memorable Bret Hart Austin I Quit match where the double turn took place, where Austin was busted open. He never gave up. I remember how heroic this match was watching this as a child, and the double turn that took place with Bret Hart becoming the heel and Austin becoming the babyface, setting the tone for the Attitude Era, man. Uh, WrestleMania 14. This WrestleMania is overrated in my opinion. Pretty good WrestleMania, but I never thought it was the best. Actually, this WrestleMania, this WrestleMania was actually kind of terrible, even though I like it. Apart from the main event, Austin and Shawn Michaels, the Intercontinental title match between Rock and Ken Shamrock, and of course, and of course, Rock and Ken Shamrock, and of course, who else? Um, um, oh yes, and the opening battle royal match, the opening tag team battle royal. This paper this show was weak in my opinion, but this was the Attitude Era, and a lot of the Attitude Era WrestleManias really weren't that good because the Attitude Era was not about wrestling, was not about wrestling. So this WrestleMania really wasn't that good. And Michaels, this is before he would retire. Since he was this was before he retired for a couple of years because of the back injury, because of how severe his back injury was. He couldn't perform a good match. This was still a pretty good WrestleMania, not the best. WrestleMania 15, this wasn't that good either, even though I thought it was much better than 14. My only problem with this show had a much better match quality, but if you take out the Rock and Austin match and this feel like an episode of Monday Night Raw. But this was an awesome WrestleMania, especially the main event, Rock and Austin, with Austin finally triumphing over Vince McMahon and The Rock. the epic image of Austin standing over Vince McMahon, the conquering champion, and the pay per view after this was even better. Backlash '99, which I own on tape and am gonna review soon. Next is next is WrestleMania 2000, another favorite WrestleMania of mine. This has a mixed reception amongst people. A lot of people consider this to be the worst ever. Well, a lot of people consider this to be the worst ever because this WrestleMania was gimmicky. This WrestleMania was crazy and gimmicky. This was the first WrestleMania that did not feature a singles match, I think, except for the street fight the women's match involving the cat. Every match was a tag team match or some kind of elimination match, but this was an awesome WrestleMania in my opinion. First off, this is WWF's most financial year. This is when they were really hot. I remember the buzz around this WrestleMania and how epic it was. How me and my friends at school were talking about it. How awesome it was. How awesome and exciting it was, man. And the match quality was pretty good. With my favorites being the Hardcore Battle Royal, Test and Albert taking on Head Cheese, Al Snow, and Blackman in a solid tag team match. The Edge and Christian Hardy Boys match in the Triangle Ladder match will become the TLC match. The really epic Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, and Chris Jericho two fall triple threat match for the Intercontinental European Championship where Kurt Angle lost both titles despite not being pinned. The main event between Triple H and the four-way elimination match for the WWF championship with the McMahon in every corner and Vince screwing the Rock, and Rock not letting the show end the way it is, beating the hell out of Triple H and Rock bottoming Stephanie who slapped him. Just awesome, man. Phenomenal WrestleMania. I love WrestleMania 2000. I also love the theme song. California, produced by Jim Johnson, which sounds a lot like Tupac and Dr. Dre's California Love. Sorry about that. I was eating a cough drop because my throat is starting to bother me. WrestleMania 17, one of the best WrestleManias of all time. This is one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time, man. Only thing I hate about this WrestleMania was shortly after the buyout of WCW. This was shortly after WCW and ECW went out of business, man. So that kind of as a kid watching this, that kind of hampered my enjoyment of the show and kind of made me take a break from wrestling until the ECW and WCW guys showed up on television for the Invasion storyline. But boy, was this an awesome WrestleMania. The match quality, the venue. This had to be one of the best sets, one of the best arena sets I've ever seen from WrestleMania. I can't stand Triple H, but this right here was not only one of his better matches, same with Taker, but watching Motorhead play him to the ring was epic, man. Was epic, and you had a pretty good card. You had Chris Jericho defeating William Regal for the Intercontinental Championship. A pretty good six-man tag team match between Taz and the APA versus Right to Censor. Kane defeating Raven and Big Show in an awesome triple threat hardcore match. Eddie Guerrero defeating Test for the European Championship. Kurt Angle defeating Chris Benoit in a technical masterpiece. China defeating Ivory for the Women's Championship. Shane McMahon defeating Vince McMahon in a phenomenal street fight. Edge and Christian defeating the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys with Matt and Jeff. Even Spike Dudley and Lita and Rhino got involved, and I thought they were actually in the match. They were involved in the match for a long time. That I actually thought they were in the match. The gimmick battle royal. This wasn't that good because But this was good for old school wrestling fans. All they did, since a battle royal between these guys would take forever because they're not fast like Kane and Undertaker and them who can eliminate people like Undertaker, Rock, and Austin who eliminate people quickly. So they just had all the gimmicky guys throwing each other out the ring. This was good for old school fans. Undertaker defeating Triple H in a phenomenal singles match in one of the better matches of either of those two guys' career. And Stone Cold defeating The Rock in a phenomenal main event for the WWF Championship. WWF Championship and the heel turn of Austin in what I consider to be the end. What me and a lot of people consider to be the end of the Attitude Era, because Attitude Era is supposed to be Austin versus McMahon. It's supposed to be Austin McMahon. They should be teaming up together. They should be teaming up together. And yeah, like I said, people, due to the buyouts of WCW and ECW, that affected my enjoyment of this show. But I enjoy this show now even much more than I did back when I saw it. This I took a leave of absence from this up until Chris Benoit, who I still considered a WCW guy at the time, came back to the main event. And when the Alliance showed up on television for the Invasion storyline, that's when I came back. Uh, Next is WrestleMania X8, another awesome WrestleMania. The Ruthless Aggression era probably had the best WrestleManias of all time, man. WrestleMania 8. Just look at this card, man. Look at this card, man. WrestleMania 8. You had Rob Van Dam versus William Regal, Intercontinental title match. The star power on this card. Diamond Dallas Page versus Christian for the European Championship. Maven versus Goldust. Maven versus Goldust and a bunch of other people for the Hardcore Championship. Kurt Angle versus Kane. Undertaker versus Ric Flair. One of Undertaker's better matches for his overrated streak. Edge versus Booker T. Awesome match, even though I thought the reason they were fighting, the fictional Japanese shampoo commercial, was stupid. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Scott Hall. Even though this could have been better than what it was, but it was still awesome. Billy and Chuck versus APA, the Dudley Boys, and the Hardy Boys. The Rock versus Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Dream Match. Jazz versus Lita and Trish Stratus in the main event. Triple H versus Chris Jericho. This was the only downside to this. The Rock and Hollywood Hogan should have been the main event. Nobody cared about Triple H and Jericho, and that kind of ruined this awesome show, man. Triple H's ego. It was supposed to be Rock and Austin, but it was supposed to be Rock and Hogan, but Triple H had to go on last. But this was a phenomenal show. Then Saliva, one of my all-time favorite bands, performing Superstar and Tear Away live at WrestleMania. Like I said, what a phenomenal WrestleMania at the Sky Dome in Toronto, Canada, man. Oh, yes. WrestleMania 19. Another WrestleMania. Another awesome WrestleMania. This would feature the final in-ring appearance of Stone Cold Steve Austin. This will feature the final in-ring appearance of Stone Cold Steve Austin and one of the final appearances of The Rock. This will also be the first time two amateur wrestling champions, Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, would meet in the main event. Boy, what a phenomenal WrestleMania this was. And you had Limp Bizkit performing Crack Addict live, then playing Undertaker to the ring. Just look at this awesome WrestleMania. Yeah, an awesome opener with Matt Hardy, with Shannon Moore defeating Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight Championship. Undertaker defeating Big Show and A-Train in a handicap match with Nathan Jones getting involved in the end. Trish Stratus defeating Victoria and Jazz in a three-way triple threat match for the Women's Championship. Team Angle, Shelton Benjamin and Haas defeating Los Guerreros, Eddie and Chavo, Chris Benoit and Rhino. Shawn Michaels defeating Chris Jericho in a phenomenal match, a dream match actually. Triple H defeating Booker T in a phenomenal match. I hate the ending of this match, but I always love it when these two wrestle. These two have such awesome chemistry. You're always in for a good match whenever these two wrestle. Hulk Hogan defeated Vince McMahon in a street fight. The Rock defeated Stone Cold Steve Austin in an awesome singles match. In Austin's last match of his career, and Brock Lesnar defeated Kurt Angle in a phenomenal match. The storyline between these two was awesome, and the end with them two hugging, man. Like I said, man, WrestleMania 20, baby. WrestleMania 20. Another awesome WrestleMania. This has a positive reception with people. However, a lot of people criticize this because of the Goldberg Brock Lesnar match. But this was a phenomenal WrestleMania. All for what a lot of people consider that awesome moment. That awesome moment. I'm going to show the picture right here. Guerrero and Benoit. Eddie Guerrero and Benoit holding World Heavyweight Championships, man. Two wrestlers I never thought would see world champions. Coming into this, I gave Benoit no shot at beating Triple H and Michaels in the main event for the championship. And I gave Eddie Guerrero no shot against Brock Lesnar at the previous pay-per-view, No Way Out, before this, man. What an awesome WrestleMania. One of the best of all time. And it's still awesome to this day. Just look at this card. Booker T and Rob Van Dam defeated Garrison Cade, Mark Jindrak, the Dudley Boys, and La Resistance in an awesome Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match. Christian defeating Chris Jericho in an awesome singles match. Evolution, Randy Orton, Batista, and Flair defeating the Rock and Sock Connection. Defeating the Rock and Sock Connection. What will be Rock's last match until WrestleMania 20, until Survivor Series 2011. Um, Tori Wilson, I skipped this, toward the evening gown match. Chavo Guerrero defeating Ultimo Dragon, Shane Moore, Noble, Funaki, Nunzio, Billy Kidman, Mysterio, Tajiri, and Akio in an awesome Cruiserweight Open match. Goldberg and versus Brock Lesnar. Love Goldberg and Brock versus Lesnar. Just because this match wasn't the best we've seen from them two. The fans actually ruined the match. They knew both of these guys were leaving and they chanted, "You sold out," and booed both of them. That these two were unsure how to start the match. Once they got started, it was good though, and this was way better than that crap at Survivor Series of last year. Survivor Series of last year, and then see this was better because it was on what was a phenomenal show, man. Um, Rikishi and Scott Hottie defeated the world's greatest tag team, Haas and Benjamin, the Basham Brothers, and APA in a phenomenal fatal 4-way tag team match. Victoria defeated Molly Holly in a hair versus hair match, and this was another pretty good match. Eddie Guerrero defeated Carango in an awesome match. I thought they had a better match at SummerSlam later that year. Undertaker defeated Kane in a solid match. And Chris Benoit defeated Triple H and Shawn Michaels by submission for the World Heavyweight Championship. And sadly to say, this has been blocked from the history books, but this is one of the best WrestleManias of all time, man. 21. Another awesome WrestleMania. However, people, as much as I love this WrestleMania, and I do, I hate this WrestleMania. I love this WrestleMania, but I hate that this WrestleMania started the era of John Cena, and Batista. This was the beginning of the death of WWE right here, man. Last year we had the epic moment, and a lot of people agree with me. Even though this event is well received by a lot of people claim that the newcomers John Cena and Batista winning titles does not compare to Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit's win from the year before. But I have a huge memory of this event from watching it with a couple of my friends from high school, man. What a phenomenal show, man. This was a phenomenal show, man. I love the Big Time by Soundtrack of Our Lives, Behind Those Eyes, Behind Three Doors Down, the hilarious Hollywood WrestleMania commercial they had before this, the various commercials and vignettes and promos they had before this, and just awesome. The matches were, for the most part, awesome, with the exception of the Trish Stratus Christy Hemme match. Yeah, that wasn't that good. And John Cena and Jamie Owens, their match wasn't that good either. And Batista versus Triple H. At the time, I thought it was the greatest match ever. Now it's just, that was just average, man. That was just average. But awesome. The storytelling in this match. You had a phenomenal opener, Rey Mysterio defeating Eddie Guerrero. That always pissed me off that the Battle Royal, which Booker T won, was on the pre-show and not on the card. I would have rather seen that on the card. I love the sumo match between Akebono and Big Show. Kurt Angle versus Shawn Michaels, match of the night. Undertaker versus Randy Orton, the other match of the night. And of course, Edge defeating Chris Jericho, Benjamin Benoit, Christian with Tom Cole and Kane. But the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match was awesome, and the opener between Rey Mysterio was awesome. John Cena and JBL, while the ending was cool with John Cena defeating JBL to win the championship. See, JBL, I hate JBL, but he was such a great heel and a great character that he put over Cena for me. I couldn't stand Cena, but I cheered for him over JBL. And I can't stand Batista, but I definitely wanted him to triumph over Triple H. So I got to give Triple H coasting Batista to a phenomenal match. It wasn't until later where I would start to despise both of these two, Cena and Batista, because I got to see how terrible each of these guys were. Yeah, I'll talk more about that in a full review of this awesome event. WrestleMania 22. Once again, this is another awesome WrestleMania. However, I didn't see this WrestleMania when it aired because the card pissed me off, and I was really getting out of WWE at this time. Not only was TNA better, but I was losing interest in. Not only were TNA, Ring of Honor, and any other and various other promotions better, but I was vastly losing interest in wrestling around this time due to the death of Eddie Guerrero and the horrible exploitation of his death by WWE by using his death in a storyline. And the card for this was just weak to me. But I watched this 2 years later in 2008. This is just like I said, this is one of the greatest WrestleManias. This was one of the greatest WrestleManias I've seen, and like I said, the Ruthless Aggression era, the 2000 eras, was the best time for WrestleMania. You had the awesome Big Time song by Peter Gabriel and the awesome I Dare You song by Shine Down. You also had other songs like Save Me Sorrow by Bullets and Octane, Baby Hates Me by Dane Cole Jones, and you had a solid card. You had Big Show and Kane defeating Carlito and Chris Masters in a pretty good tag team match. Rob Van Dam defeating Shelton Benjamin, Flair, Finley, and Matt Hardy and Bobby Lashley in an awesome Money in the Bank match. This was probably match of the night. JBL defeating Chris Benoit in the singles match for the United States title. This was an awesome match, however, this pissed me off, man. Benoit, who in the previous years was wrestling for, who in WrestleMania 20 was wrestling for the World Heavyweight Championship. At WrestleMania 21 was wrestling in a Money in the Bank match for a shot at one of the heavyweight championships. Was wrestling in the mid card for JBL, who the previous years was a heavyweight champion. This pissed me off, and then the fact that Benoit lost this match. Edge defeated Mick Foley in a phenomenal hardcore match. I skipped the Boogeyman and Booker T. Sharpell match. I couldn't stand Boogeyman, man. Um, I couldn't stand him. Real wrestlers who could f Boogeyman up in a minute had to pretend to be scared of this cheesy, lame wrestler. Mickey James and Trish Stratus. I always skip this. I remember not caring about Mickey James from when she first came in. Undertaker defeated Mark Henry in a solid casket match. Shawn Michaels defeated Vince McMahon in a phenomenal no holds bar match. This was pretty good considering the feud between the two. I didn't care much for. Rey Mysterio defeated Randy Orton and Kurt Angle in a phenomenal triple threat match. A lot of people don't like this match, but I actually enjoyed it. Tori Wilson and Candice Michelle skipped this, and John Cena defeated Triple H in a phenomenal match. My favorite thing about this is, I hate both of these guys, but this is the one time I love Triple H more than John Cena. I love how Triple H, I love him teasing the return of DX, his eventual face turn. I also loved him. I also loved him. I also loved Triple H trying to do everything in his power to be a heel and get booed, and the fans still cheered him over John Cena. The one time I love Triple H over John Cena, man. I can't stand both of them, but I usually prefer John Cena over Triple H because John Cena he's more exciting to watch. Triple H is a better wrestler than him, but Cena is more exciting to watch in the ring. WrestleMania 23. I love WrestleMania 23. I didn't care much for the Donald Trump and Vince McMahon hair versus hair match, but I loved Austin as special guest referee. This had a phenomenal card. You had Mr. Kennedy defeating CM Punk, Randy Orton, Finley, Matt Hardy, King Booker with Queen Sharmell, and Jeff Hardy and Edge in a phenomenal Money in the Bank match. Probably match of the night. The Great Khali defeating Kane in a pretty good big man match. Chris Benoit defeating Tel Vontavious Porter in a surprisingly awesome match. I was once again disappointed that Benoit was in the mid card instead of the main event. This is also the last appearance of Chris Benoit in WrestleMania, as he would commit suicide a couple of months after this. Undertaker defeated Batista in a. I didn't like this match. I hated their feud and I hated this match. I only liked it when they got Edge involved. The ECW originals, Rob Van Dam, Tommy Dreamer, Sabu, and Sandman defeated the New Breed, Elijah Burke, Marcus Corvine, who was Monty Brown from TNA, Striker, and Kevin Thorne. This was awesome seeing these guys at WrestleMania. Bobby Lashley defeated Umaga in an awesome hair versus hair match. I didn't care much for the Vince McMahon, Donald Trump stuff, but I love seeing both of those guys get stunned at the end. And Lashley triumphed over what's his name. I just think the fact that Lashley and Umaga had to be overshadowed by Trump and Vince McMahon. Melina defeated Ashley. Skip this. And John Cena defeated Shawn Michaels in a phenomenal match. I remember not wanting to see this. What was funny is I wanted to see Undertaker and Michaels at this show. But no, they did it 2 years later. But instead, Michaels wrestled John Cena, I didn't consider him in Michaels' league. This is right here. This was the year I started to respect John Cena. I hated John Cena in 2005 and 06, but this is when I started to respect him, when he had all of these awesome matches. 2007 was one of Cena's best years. Arguably, this is when people started hating him more because he beat Chris Benoit this year. But yeah, then you have WrestleMania 24, the last good WrestleMania for a while, in my opinion. Um, you had a solid card. You had JBO defeating Finley, CM Punk defeating Benjamin Jericho, the returning Chris Jericho, Carlito, Montel Vontavious, Porter, Kennedy, and Morrison in a phenomenal Money in the Bank ladder match. Batista defeating Umaga. I didn't care much for this. Kane defeating Chavo. I didn't like Chavo being buried like that, but it was hilarious. Shawn Michaels defeating Flair in a phenomenal career-ending match. Some say this should have been the end because nothing followed it. Beth Phoenix and I didn't never watch this. Randy Orton defeating John Cena and Triple H in an awesome triple threat match for the WWE Championship. Mayweather defeating Big Show in one of the better celebrity matches, and Undertaker and Edge. Undertaker defeating Edge in a phenomenal match. I remember Edge's badass entrance for this WrestleMania, and this was a pretty awesome WrestleMania. This was the last good WrestleMania for a while because the next WrestleMania 25 was one of the worst WrestleManias I've seen. This killed wrestling for me. This was terrible. You had Kid Rock performing a long concert, to the fact it forced Carlito and Primo and versus Morrison and Miz, who I was really interested in that feud. It forced them to the pre-show. The tag team titles had to be defended on the pre-show. John Cena and Edge's Big Show match. Not only was that Big Show feud, not only was with Vicky Guerrero, not only was that terrible, not only was this terrible, it wasn't memorable. Nobody remembers or cares about it. John Cena, Triple H and Randy Orton, which was an awesome feud, but the match between them wasn't that good, man. Then you had Michaels and Undertaker, which I didn't care about. Two has-beens going at it. I wanted to see this 2 years before WrestleMania 23. Rey Mysterio defeating JBL in a couple of seconds for the Intercontinental title. How long did that take? A 21-second match at your biggest show of the year. Next was Matt Hardy defeating Jeff Hardy in a disappointing Extreme Rules match. I expected more from these two. And the Money in the Bank wasn't that good either. Apart from the entrances, the Money in the Bank really wasn't that good. And do not even talk about the Miss Battle Royal with Santino Marella and drag. Like I said, just terrible. The memorable parts were Austin's speech, the ACDC Shoot to Thrill and War songs and yeah, yeah. So yeah, this was terrible, man. WrestleMania 26. This was way better than WrestleMania 25, except here's the problem I have with this. This was during the WWE's PG era. So which means this was pretty good, but it's not memorable. It's awesome whenever I watch it, but it's not memorable. The Hall of Fame was good. I love the setup. Yet this had some much better match quality, but nobody remembers or cares about this WrestleMania. Nobody remembers or cares about this WrestleMania. I don't remember anything from this WrestleMania. I don't remember anything from this WrestleMania. Um, um, Yet a pretty good card, but like I said, I don't remember anything from this WrestleMania. I'm gonna have to go back and review it again. This was during the PG era, but this was a pretty awesome WrestleMania. But it's what I criticize. It's WrestleMania during the PG era. So yeah. Next was WrestleMania 27. WrestleMania 27 was terrible, but I enjoyed it. It was very Attitude Era esque WrestleMania. None of the Attitude Era WrestleManias were really all that good, and even my favorite 16 is widely considered to be terrible. Um, so this was very Attitude Era, so I forgave it. But yes, Snooki being on this show was fail, and that pissed me off at the time. Snooki being at this WrestleMania, the match between Jerry King Lawler and Michael Cole, which went on way too long. Jerry King Lawler should have beat the living daylights out of Michael Cole, and Michael Cole should have got beat up by Austin and The Rock. But a pretty good pretty awesome but a pretty awesome WrestleMania. CM Punk and Randy Orton was probably match of the night. I also enjoyed Rey Mysterio and Cody, the core match between the core versus Big Show, Kingston, Alberto Del Rio, and Kane. That was pretty good. And Undertaker versus Triple H, the street fight, that was pretty good. And Edge defeating Alberto Del Rio, which this is the first time I was happy to make the title, the world title was defended in the opening match because Alberto Del Rio, he was not worthy of the main event spot. And John Cena versus The Miz, even though that's widely considered to be the worst match, everybody considers that to be terrible. That was surprisingly okay. Of course, my favorite part was the end where The Rock got involved. That's what I tuned into this match to see. So I got what I wanted. Um, Rock WrestleMania 28. I detest and hate this show, but this was an awesome show, man. Most of my hatred has went down, but I hate this show. From that 18 seconds crap they pulled in the opening card, and they pulled with Daniel Bryan and Sheamus. I absolutely despise and hated WWE for this trash, and never truly forgave them for it. But if you can get past that, this was a pretty awesome show. This had some awesome match quality. It was good seeing The Rock return. It was good seeing The Rock return. So yeah, this was a pretty awesome WrestleMania. Oh yes, other reasons I hate this show: Flo Rida and MGM Kelly and Madonna performing at this. What's his name? I did love the theme song, "The Memory Remains" by Metallica. So phenomenal WrestleMania. But I remember hating this show, man, and because it also felt like a big Raw and SmackDown Super show. Um, WrestleMania 29, the worst WrestleMania of all time, even worse than 25 in my opinion, because at least 25 had had ACDC and the Austin, what's his name? This right here was terrible, man. This right here was terrible. First off, if the whole thing felt like Raw, this didn't even look like a WrestleMania. You had Fandango, a wrestler who got to debut on WrestleMania. This killed the credibility of WrestleMania for me. I don't even take WrestleMania serious anymore. It's just a big budget. It's just a big budget indie show nowadays. It ain't epic or anything now. Um, like I said, just terrible. Apart from CM Punk and Taker, which I didn't care much for. This whole WrestleMania was terrible, man. This WrestleMania was terrible. When John Cena versus The Rock, even though they had this match a year later, that was supposed to be a once in a lifetime thing. WrestleMania 30. Boy, was this a phenomenal show, man. Was this a phenomenal show. However, like I said, the problem I have with WrestleMania in the PG era, it's not memorable. But let me tell you what I do remember from this show. Rock, Austin, and Hogan. Three of the biggest stars starting it off, getting me hyped for the rest of this show. Getting me hyped for the rest of this show. And the matches. The matches. You had Daniel Bryan defeating Triple H to advance to the triple threat match at the end of the show between Daniel Bryan versus Batista versus Randy Orton and Batista. Then you had Brock Lesnar versus Undertaker. Cesaro won the Andre the Giant Invitational Battle Royal. Battle Royal. The Shield defeated New Age Outlaws. Everything was good with the exception of the John Cena Wyatt match and the AJ Lee and the Divas match. But a phenomenal WrestleMania. I didn't watch WWE in 2014 because of how terrible 2012 and 13 was, but I remember WrestleMania that year and SummerSlam that year being actually pretty good. Pretty good. Next is WrestleMania 31, which, in my opinion, is garbage. Is garbage. I enjoyed it at the time I saw it, but then I saw a much better TNA show, Slammiversary 2015, which I thought was way better than this. And nowadays I think this show is terrible. Just an overly produced outside indie show. This is a crappier version of WrestleMania 9 because this also had an outside venue. But the main reason I hate this show card wise, believe it or not, wasn't all that bad. The main reason I hate this show is Sting. How they wasted his debut by having him lose the Triple H, man. And then his entrance and everything just sucked, man. And Seth Rollins cashing in on Brock Lesnar instead of having Sting defeat Triple H in the Authority and have Seth Rollins turn face here, and challenge Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns for the belt. Instead, no, he cheats and cashes and gets the belt and has one of the worst title reigns of all time. 2015 of WWE was so damn terrible. I didn't even watch much in 2016 until it was announced that Goldberg was gonna come back, man. WrestleMania 32. This was okay, but once again, it's not memorable. I didn't watch a lot from this show. I only watched Chris Jericho versus AJ Styles, which I didn't like. I thought this was disappointing. I expected more from them. The Zack Ryder, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Ziggler, Stardust Miz, and Sin Cara Money in the Bank ladder match was pretty awesome. Undertaker defeating I know, no, I hated that too. Undertaker match. I also hated the Divas match. I didn't care for the Rock and Eric Rowan stuff. Oh yes, I love the battle. Yeah, pretty much the ladder match in the Battle Royal and the Dean Ambrose Lesnar match were one things that were good from the show. I didn't watch Roman Reigns and Triple H. I was not watching another WrestleMania with Triple H. Well, that was WrestleMania 32. Now I'm going to give you my thoughts on WrestleMania 33, and I think WrestleMania 33 is gonna suck, but there are some things I'm looking forward to. The Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I'm pretty sure there will be some kind of ladder match here. And of course, Chris Jericho versus Kevin Owens United States title match. The Goldberg Lesnar Universal Championship match. And that's just about it. Everything else looks like trash, boy. Everything else looks like trash, and I really don't care much for it. I only did this video so I could give you my thoughts, so I can do my WrestleMania review series. Well, this was my short WrestleMania review series. About to take a break and get some water. Gonna do a video reviewing each WrestleMania individually. All right, I'm done for now, people. Goodbye.